On this week of the one-on-one show here at CTreySports, I'm with Patrick Lagreid, the PA announcer, the current PA announcer for the Phoenix Mercury of the WNBA and the Arizona Rattlers of the Indoor Football League. Patrick, it's good to have you. We kind of crossed paths this past season at the Rattlers, and your voice worked through there. But it's great to have you. It's been a couple months enjoying the offseason of the Rattlers and the Mercury. How are you, man?
Thanks, man. It's great to be here, Caleb. Yeah, I know it's, in my world, there's really not an off season when it comes to work because you're always doing something. But, I hate off seasons, to be honest with you. Like I love being at games and, certainly the three sports that I do primarily. So WNBA with the Mercury, the Rattlers, and then also working pro baseball. It's like they're all sort of in the off season at the same time. And it's like, I just want to go to a game, just let me go somewhere. So fortunately tonight, I'm actually going to be announcing the Suns Clippers game. So get to be back in front of in an arena for once in a little bit. So yeah, man, things are good. I can't complain.
And that's also another thing to mention. I guess like you're the backup PA announcer for the Suns. And I wouldn't be shocked. You're going to probably be the future PA announcer of the Suns. If I had to guess, I mean, it's got my vote for sure. So,
well, thank you. Yeah, it's with COVID and everything, it's been really weird. So Vince Marotta, who's the Suns PA guy, is a morning radio show host here in Phoenix. And, we talk and text every once in a while. And, we had these like preseason meetings to just kind of go over the scripts and make sure we were on the same page. And he's my backup for the Mercury and stuff like that. But because of COVID, one of the rules that they gave us was like, okay, you guys can't ever see each other because you can't risk both being sick at the same time. So, unfortunately, he's out tonight, but luckily I get to step in and like I said, it'll be fun. I'm trying to remember when the last time I did a game was because I think it was September when the WNBA playoffs ended. So, just trying to refresh my memory and learn a whole bunch more pronunciations and obviously see a really exciting team with the Suns tonight. So should be fun.
Oh yeah, and we'll get to all that and more, especially because this past year was a great year for all three teams that played in the Footprint Center. But going into how you got into public address announcing, and it's not just that, but just more voiceover stuff because you do that as well, like commercial advertising and all that. How did that all start from you? Like, did it kind of start in high school or was it a few years out of college? Like, where was the starting point?
Yeah, so I say this jokingly, but it's absolutely serious. It started in puberty. My voice changed this summer between my sophomore and junior year. And I don't remember what my voice used to sound like. And not that it necessarily sounds like this when I was in high school, but it was like, it definitely changed. And I just started noticing people were saying, hey, you need to, you should do something with your voice. And I had sworn off ever being anywhere near media or anything like that because my mom's a newspaper editor and that can be crazy hours and schedules. And I was just like, that's not what I'm interested in. And voice changes. And I went to a really athletically inclined high school up in Seattle, small high school as well, but very, very good sports program. And I started toying around with the idea of being a PA announcer because I knew the teacher that did it. And so I asked him one day and he's like, yeah, absolutely. We'll have you do JV basketball or something. And so as a sort of a segue into that, we had our football games on the radio. So I would do stats and spot during the game. And then I hosted the halftime show when I was like, 16 or whatever it was. And so then did JV basketball. He'd sit beside me and kind of teach me things and how to do things properly. And then that led to varsity basketball. And then literally went to college at the University of San Francisco, go Dons. Walked, like literally I dropped my bags off for summer orientation because we had to go down. There's like placement tests and some other stuff. Dropped my bags in my room, walked right to the athletic department, I literally went to the reception and said, who handles your PA announcers? He goes, oh, well, that's this guy down in media relations. I walked down, knocked on the door. Hi, I'm Pat Lagreid. I want to be your next PA announcer. And they're like, we got somebody. I'm like, okay, well, I'll be back and I'll make sure you have my number and everything. Here's my cell phone if you need to reach me or whatever. And sure enough, like go back to, for that week before school when you're getting moved in and everything, literally drop my bags, walk down to the athletic department in the gym, knock on the door. Guy's name is Pete Simon. I said, Pete, I want to be your PA announcer. He goes, still got somebody. So thanks. I said, well, here's my dorm number. Here's like my phone number. Here's everything. So sure enough, like I'm sitting up in my dorm. It's, I think the day before classes are supposed to start, whatever. It was somewhere on there. And phone rings, pick it up. Hello. Hey, it's Pete Simon down the athletic department. What are you doing tomorrow night? I said, nothing. He goes, good. You're a new men's soccer PA. Our guy just quit. And he went on to work for one of the Fox affiliates or something like that. And he was more of a TV guy than like a PA guy. And I was like, well, cool. Like now I got to learn soccer in, less than a day. And thankfully, soccer is not like a super intense PA sport. It's really just subs and finding your signature goal, or that kind of stuff. But it was a great introduction. And that led to, so that was men's and women's soccer, women's volleyball. That led to baseball. And then that led to baseball doing baseball games on the radio. And then I got to do one of our men's basketball games on the radio because our guy got sick or his wife had something. So they flew me up to Portland to do a game, like totally last minute. And then, I got out of college and I just kept working at it and finding things and would do some games at my high school just to stay sharp. And then moved here and got hired at Goodyear Ballpark to do Reds and Indians games. And then I got recruited over to Salt River and do D-backs and Rockies spring training and fall league over there. And then that led me to a connection who did stats for the Suns and Mercury. And when the Mercury's guy left, he texted me and goes, hey, you need to get on the horn right now and like call some people. And that led to auditions for the Suns and Mercury. And sort of with that hiring process and that shuffling, then I got the Rattlers because Vince used to do the Rattlers and he just wanted to step away from that. So it's all this one big like chain of stuff that I can literally trace back to O'Day High School in Seattle, Washington, and a really good guy named Mark Zender, who was the guy that did PA and stepped aside so I could do it. So,
and during your time, in college, this was mainly all in the Bay Area, like San Fran, that territory.
Correct. Yeah.
You came to Arizona. Like, what was your impression of it? Like, have you heard the previous PA announcers before you? Like, Jim Barnett, Jeff Munn, and Vince Murata, like you mentioned.
Yeah. I probably had somewhere along the way. I've been coming to Phoenix for spring training for a lot of years, and I'd seen some D-backs games. I think Jeff was doing D-backs then. Yeah, I mean, I knew some of them. I certainly didn't know all of them. And I was definitely a lot more familiar with the guys up in Seattle. So a guy named Vic Orlando used to do the Sonics. He actually worked at the radio station I was a part of. And then another guy named Tom Hutler does the Mariners. And I changed radio groups and he was at that station. Matt Pittman's a good friend of mine who's the PA announcer for the Warriors. We worked together at the Sonics and Storm and in radio as well. And I've probably borrowed a good chunk of my material from those three guys in one form or another, because there was just something that everybody's got something you can learn from and borrow from. And, Vic and Tom have these just incredibly deep, rich, resonant voices that, when he was announcing Ken Griffey Jr. in the heyday, it literally felt like it was shaking you. And fortunately I got sort of that same tonality and like to think that, when Diana Taurasi hits a big three or Jared scores a big touchdown for the Rattlers or somebody, that like I'm leaving a really good, strong impression on those fans and helping, excite the building and really adding to the moment. So
and kind of just going into your history at the Rattlers, the environment, at least because when I came in, it was a couple of years since I've been to a Rattlers game, and I just forgot how loud and the environment is. Taylor Griffin, who was the in-game director that year, I asked him, Mike, because one time I went to a Mercury game when you announced, I'm like, why? It's like even the sound is very different. And Taylor even told me, he's like, yeah, we raised the decibels up.
Right.
Rattler games, and there's actually been noise complaints because of it. But it is very insane. The fans are always, rowdy. And so you always got to keep the energy up, even if we're down by like 2 touchdowns.
Oh, yeah.
What was your impression of it when you got to see a Rattlers game, especially, the big cannon that you pretty much see right in front of you in your position?
Yeah. So I literally knew one thing about Rattlers games, and it was the cannon. And I've been doing it for 4-ish years now. And truthfully, I still jump a little bit every time it goes off, especially when there's, like a quick pick or something. That it's one thing when, you see a play from the other side of the field sort of develop and you can kind of prep yourself for it. But yeah, it still makes me jump a little bit. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the noise aspect of it. I mean, that's one of those things that you don't always see everywhere. Like, there are rules about how loud you can be in the NBA and the WNBA, and spring training is obviously very relaxed. It's fun, it's enthusiastic, but it's also a proactive sport. So like I'm always announcing the batter and and you're not reacting to a play. Whereas in in NBA, WNBA, in football, you're reactive. So that energy just completely changes. And I always find it really interesting when I have to go like do a spring training game in the morning and then a Rattlers game at night, because it's literally Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's one very subdued, now batting number 19, Charlie Blackmon. And then it's touchdown Rattlers. And it's just like this completely different side of me. But that's also one of the fun parts of it, because
so would you say, like, at least the Rattlers and indoor football as a whole, like, you're allowed to be a lot more enthusiastic like the fans? And then
it's
WNBA, you kind of have to be more neutral.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think we're definitely homers. I mean, I shouldn't say. I hate the word homer. So the PA announcer's role is informative first and foremost. There should be some entertaining, and I think you should sort of guide the crowd in certain directions. This all said, like, I'm not Wheezy, who's out in the crowd doing the contest hits and stuff like that. So there's that sort of role, and certainly, I'm trying to set a little bit of a tone along with the music for sort of what the vibe of the game is, at least as best I can, before they start playing and stuff, and all that stuff happens. But yeah, I mean, like with Rattlers, I don't even think there's a rule about how loud you can or can't be. I mean, there's certainly rules about when you can play sound. Once the center is over the ball, you can't play music and you can't distract and stuff like that. But I know in the NBA and the WNBA, there's like firm decibel limits that if you go over them, you can get fined. So it's very, because every league has its own thing. And I certainly have lived through enough complaints about, oh, it's just nothing but music and this and that and the other thing. And, people like to enjoy games differently. The next generation enjoys games differently than I do. And I enjoy games differently than, my parents' generation does. So you're just trying to find that happy balance and create your own sort of signature sound. And thankfully with the Rattlers, we tend to get some pretty nice crowds and they tend to respond really well. The Mercury are the same way. We give them a little motivation and they're usually right on top of it. So that's really fun too, when you can get them going and they respond and give it all back to you, because there's nothing like a big house screaming down on top of you.
Yeah, and this past year was probably the best year yet in the history of the Footprint Center, even though kind of the end result wasn't what everyone wanted.
Yeah.
The Suns, Mercury, and the Rattlers, the three teams that are the official tenants there, they all made it to the championship game, but lost. But it was, but no, having an extraordinarily playoff run, and most of those games that they had the playoffs in those big games. Well, except for the Suns, they had the elimination games. They mostly did that on the road. They've had a lot of great home game experiences there. And, looking back at your time, at least specifically this past season, because it's not just that, but also, the arena got renovated. It was the first year for the Rattlers and the Mercury to be playing into this, I guess you can say, brand new facility, because that's how well done it looks.
Absolutely, yeah.
With the same foundations, of course. But, looking back at this past season, like, what would you say were some of your favorite moments? Like, I remember there was a time the Mercury clinched the playoffs right 5 minutes into tip-off, and I think that was something you announced during the next, timeout or something like that.
Yeah, there was a game being played before us, and there was interesting concern, not concern, but just, when would we know? And I don't remember if it went into overtime, but it was fairly, like you say, it was fairly quick in. There's a lot of plays that I think are really fun. Certainly the WNBA playoffs was incredible this year. The double headers, we had 2 double headers this year, which were really fascinating. I can think of one play in particular. Sophie Cunningham gets a rebound on the other end of the court. She's just coming off a bad knee or ankle. I can't remember what it was. and she's kind of getting picked up as she gets to half court by Diamond DeShields, and she just jukes her and then stops and pops a three. And she'd already hit a couple already. And that was like the moment that the roof just came off the building. And she had some really great games, and she is an absolute spark plug. And I hope we can find a way to get her back on the club this year. I think she had 8 or 9 3-pointers against New York in a elimination game that was played over at Grand Canyon. Like, there's just, when somebody is able to take control of a game like that, that's really impressive. Certainly Diana Taurasi's 9,000th point. Anytime Brittany Griner dunks, I mean, that's a huge thing to be a part of. Yeah, it's really tough to like sort of pick one or two that are stellar. Obviously, I would have liked to get the win and had them win the finals in both teams, because you certainly remember the heartbreak may not be the right word, but you do remember that sort of deflation of it happening. Like, Game 5 was in Chicago, and there wasn't there wasn't a chance to win it in Phoenix. But certainly after 4, everyone's feeling just incredible and going, okay, we're going to, we may actually do this, and certainly the Rattlers were close. I've unfortunately been part of 2 losing United Bowls now. And, it's tough to take it, but that's, part of the reality of getting on the field or being part of this business is not everything's always going to go your way. And you just got to be thankful that you can be a part of it, because I can tell you there's 10 teams that were not in the finals this year in the WNBA, and however many in the IFL that didn't make the finals and would certainly probably love to be having that game. And yeah, it didn't work out, I at least got to be a part of it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's funny, the special guest before you, Floyd Simmons, I don't know if you remember him. He's the play-by-play announcer for the Rattlers, but we've talked about this a little bit. Those last 2 games with the Rattlers came off of the field goal. And the first one, Duke City missed, which was the visiting team.
Right.
And the next one after that, the visiting team made the field goal, which was Massachusetts in that case. And that was a bit of a nail biter for the fans. Like, how do you kind of announce at that point when you're basically in like that legendary frozen moment in time? You don't know what's going to happen. It's a very make or break moment. Yeah,
you just, you lean on your experience, you prepare for the options. It pretty much any time you can say, okay, what are the options that are going to happen here? There's option A, which is like he makes it. B, he misses it. C, there's a penalty or something and you got to reset it. And, that's just having good coordination with the director and our music people and our video people and just everyone being on the same page and saying, look, let's get the 100 thoughts out of our head. Let's get down to 3 or however few you can get it to. And let's have a good, solid preparation for those things. And then it becomes, you're not thinking, you're reacting. And if you've got enough experience, and hand to God, I'm not always perfect with reactions and stuff, but the more experience you have, the better you get at training yourself to react just like a batter does to a certain type of pitch. You just go, I got to take some options off the table and I got to just be ready to go with whatever happens. And, for our music people, it's like, just get down to 3 songs. We're going to do this if this happens, this if that happens, and this is our plan if that happens. And you just are sort of constantly reevaluating those things as the game goes. And then you get down to that final moment, you go, all right, well, here are the options. Let's be ready for them. And then you just let your training take over once it happens, and hopefully, try not to swear.
Yeah, swear. But, in those moments, like when you're exploring those options, like, because, when you're voicing everything over in front of the crowd, do you always I guess not like a script, but more like a mental script in your head on what you're going to say? Like, oh, like he missed the field goal, the Rattlers are champions or something like that. Or if they make it and Massachusetts win, like final score, Pirates 67, Rattlers, blah, blah, blah. Like, do you always kind of have that prepared in your head for exactly what you're going to say or written down? Or is it just all like?
I would say the vast majority of live stuff lives in my head somewhere. Obviously we script out as much of the game as we can so that we can take away, so we can allow ourselves to be creative and reactive when needed. So like timeouts for the most part are all scripted. You know, we try and get as much down on paper so that everyone's on the same page. And we're not, you know, falling all over ourselves or chasing each other for things. But yeah, I mean, you know, if you get down to that last second field goal and it's a make or break situation, you know that it's either going to be, you know, the field goal attempt is no good, and you know, the Rattlers win or whatever, or you know, the field goal attempt by so and so is good, final score, whatever, and you just kind of, you know, you shift gears. You know, you don't want to get too down because you still got to keep people's attention because there's still stuff to, you know, to be done and said and sponsorship messages to be read. But yeah, you're always just trying to say, you know, this is, again, what option am I looking at? How am I going to get into it? Let's go. And again, the more you do it, the more instinctual it becomes.
Oh, absolutely. And moving forward, you know, so we're in the brand new year, 2022. Obviously, a lot of unfinished business for the Mercury and the Rattlers, and who knows, maybe possibly another chance at the NBA Finals for the Suns. We'll see. But what are the biggest things that you know you're looking forward to this year, especially? So I think the IFL has some new expansion teams coming in. I think the Vegas Nighthawks is one of them, which is owned by the Golden Knights. That's one of the big rivalries I'm looking forward to. But from your perspective, from the voice of the Mercury and the Suns, well, I guess technically tonight, the voice of the Suns.
The occasional voice of the Suns, yeah.
The occasional voice, yeah, absolutely. And as the voice of the Mercury and the Rattlers, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I think certainly, you know, if the teams can build off the success of last year, that's huge. And I'm hoping they can do it. You know, the teams are in different places right now. The Mercury right now have not announced a head coach yet. They've probably got 5 or 6 roster spots that are not filled. It was weird. I was actually just looking at their roster. And it was amazing how many names are not on it. It's you know, like 5 or 6 people right now. Maybe more than that. I don't want to say 6 or 7. Anyway, but there's a few open spots that need to get filled. Negotiations with players and teams are just underway. They can start signing, I believe, February 1st. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes along. We don't have a head coach right now. So there's that kind of stuff. So there's an interesting transition that's happening with the Mercury right now. And I'll be really interested to see how that plays out. You know, the Rattlers have been busy signing players. It looked like a good number of guys have come back. There are going to be some interesting openings for folks. I think, you know, is it Steven Garola retired? You know, there's going to be some changes and some new names, and that's certainly the case with the Indoor Football League on the whole. I mean, you know, you're lucky if you ever see the same roster twice, you know, due to injuries and turnover and stuff like that. You know, I'm always intrigued to see what Coach Guy has up his sleeve as far as getting the most out of that team, that group. And then, as you mentioned, with some more local teams, I think that could be really interesting for the game day experience. And I hope it works in that, you know, fans from Vegas will embrace that team and they'll come down for games here. You know, I want to see the Northern Arizona team do better. I want to see Tucson do better, because my first couple of years, I mean, there was no team within 800 miles of Phoenix. If I'm not mistaken, it was like Cedar Rapids or Iowa or somebody.
A lot of teams were like in the Midwestern territory, and the Rattlers really kind of flipped the script on that, kind of adding more Southwestern teams. And I mean,
right
now we got 2 other Arizona teams in Prescott Valley and Tucson, and now we got a Vegas one. San Diego's coming.
San Diego, Oakland. I mean, it's now Bay Area going to play in San Jose. Having Spokane back is nice. I mean, it was really weird looking at the map my first year. Like, here's, you know, Arizona, and then there's like, you got to go all the way over here to find another team in the league. So I really hope that develops, because that, I think, will just continue to re-energize our fan base and make for a better game day experience by hopefully having some fans that are going to travel with the team and, you know, spend the weekend in Phoenix and come see a game and see how we do it. So
absolutely. Well, we'll take our 30 minutes is almost up, but to wrap it up here, I want to see if this is possible. Is there a way you can read kind of the intro game, like presentation, like, you know, like you did for the Rattlers, like, welcome to the Footprint Center and the greatest show on turf, like, matchup. Do you by chance have that the Suns tonight?
I do, actually, like the script for tonight.
Yeah. Like the opening right before the intros and all that.
I do. Hang on one sec. Let's see here. You're gonna make me give away the secrets.
Oh no, it's
That's
the
fine.
best part. I mean, in my opinion, in PA announcing, it is the best part because it's literally the very so because you're getting
So like right at blow off kind of thing.
huh?
So right when the clock gets to zero and
Like right after that hype video goes and the clock goes to zero and you hear the music, you're announcing the matchup.
yeah, okay. So we got the anthems. Once again, Nadia Salinas. Good evening and welcome to the Footprint Center for tonight's matchup featuring the visiting Los Angeles Clippers and your Phoenix Suns. Hopefully everyone's ears are still intact. I didn't blow out any headphones.
My gosh, goosebumps, man. No, that literally is like the best part of the job, getting the fans fired up. And
yeah,
it's kind of like that way of saying like, you're in for a good time. So,
and I'll tell you what, and I'll just say this really quickly. This last season doing that was incredible because we counted the number of days, and I distinctly remember that exact moment. And it was, the Mercury's fans are called the X Factor.
Yeah.
And it was X Factor. It's been 620 days, and it's finally time to get on your feet to meet your Phoenix Mercury. And it was fun to do that, but to remember, it's been 600 days since we last got to do this collectively. That was a really, really special moment. And the same thing with the Rattlers. So, yeah, man, it's a fun way to set the tone and hopefully get everyone up and cheering and locked in for the game.
And hopefully, I mean, because I'm sure you're aware of the whole Omicron spread. I hope that we never have to go through that again. But
you and me both, my friend. You and me both.
Situation like that does happen. It is kind of in a weird way cool to be that first big moments when fans are back in town. Like it's like, yes, we're back.
Oh, look, absolutely. I sat on my hands for way too long, and it was great that they got the season in the bubble and the wobble, and but there's nothing like being in the arena doing it live. So I never ever will take that for granted. And people ask, do you still get butterflies? And it's like, absolutely, I get nervous. The minute I stop getting nervous before games and feeling that little tingle and rush, that's the minute you got to hang it up, because then you don't care. And even just looking over the script for tonight, I get a little tingly. So yeah, no, it's a blast, man.
Nervous. It's always a good kind of nervous. So
look, yeah, I mean, it's not staring down a lion kind of nervous. It's that when the lights go on or off in this case, and the horn sounds, it's like it's go time. You get one take at it, and you get instant feedback as to how you do, and that's what I look forward to and really enjoy. And then just getting to think that in some way my name's or my voice is hopefully going to be attached to some really great moments. So. Yeah.
Well, it's awesome. Well, it was so much fun to kind of talk about your history, and thanks so much for coming on. I will say, because I've known the Rattlers for so long, I've seen a lot of P announcers like, Jim Barnett, Jeff Scott, Vince Murata, the most recent one before you. They have all kind of gone over to, being the P announcers for the Suns, Cardinals. I hope we get to see you in that position one day.
Thank you.
Lead PA announcer, whether if it's at State Farm Stadium, the Footprint Center, or maybe the new Coyotes Arena in Tempe. So I'm just calling it out. So, Patrick, thank you so much, and hope to see you again. This summer, whether if it's in the X Factor or the Snake Pit, as we call it in the.
Yep.
So thank you so much, man.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you, and I really hope that that next generation of PA announcers is out there and excited. It's a fun role. It's a really neat gig. It's unique. There's not a lot of us out there. And certainly we need the next generation to be up and ready to take over for us at some point. So, if you're ever at a game, stop by, say hi. I'll give you my card. We'll chat. I'm an open book about everything. So, definitely if you're out there, take advantage of that stuff, because it might be your turn one day. So, man, thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, we'll see you. Thank you, man.